Hi, everybody, and welcome to today's Hacking HR panel. Today, we are doing a panel on a look at the AI and technology landscape and how it supports HR. We have a great lineup of panelists to talk about this, but we wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for our audience. So it'll be great to know, where is everybody from today? Where are you connecting from? And what are you eager to learn about? What are your questions right before we get started? And I hope that as we go through today's session that we get a really great online engagement, and make sure to add your comments and questions as we go. I think we have a really great lineup of speakers today. We can ask some of those tough questions. We've been using artificial intelligence in HR now for quite a few years. When my research started, we started hearing in 2015, 2016, up in 2018, debates about whether AI was going to create a utopian or dystopian future for the future of AI, for the future of HR. Today, nearly 5 years on from these comments, we have a panel and we can ask them, has this utopian or dystopian future started to play out for us? Do we know more than we used to know? And what is AI really doing for HR? Is it really bringing a benefit, or are there concerns that we should be really aware about as we adopt this new technology? So without further ado, let's hear from our panelists today, and let's bring them onto the stage. So we have a great lineup here. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining me. So I hope you heard my introduction. Quite a few years ago, we had a lot of authors writing about AI bringing a utopian or dystopian future. We're now 5 years on from a lot of those authors writing about that, and people have been using AI in HR. We see active use of it. What are some of the benefits? What are some of the pitfalls? Not all of them, just one or two. And as you introduce yourselves, if you could just tell us, what have you seen that has been one of the great benefits that we never expected, maybe, and one of those pitfalls that we should still be concerned about? Let's start with you, Tracy.
Sure. Thanks a lot. Looking forward to it and to our discussion together, you all. My name is Tracy Brower. I'm the Vice President of Workplace Insights for Steelcase. My PhD is in the sociology of work, how we affect our work, how it affects us. One of my most recent books is The Secrets to Happiness at Work, and I write for Forbes and Fast Company as well. I think there is wonderful both promise and peril with AI and technology. I think one of the promises is in terms of the fulfillment in terms of our work, and the idea that we could offload tasks that are less interesting and really be embracing tasks that are more interesting to us. I think one of the perils is we're at this critical phase where we're thinking about all the new things that AI is going to do for us, but we don't yet have a lot of clarity about the cool things we will still be able to do. And I think that we need more reinforcement about what's uniquely human, so we can feel a little bit less nervous about where things are going. I just think we're kind of in this phase where we haven't been clear with people about the new, but we've been clear about what's no longer real in terms of the present. So we have an opportunity there.
I like that. Rarely do we hear about the human side of technology and AI discussions. Fantastic point. Wagner, would you like to take over now?
Sure. Hi, everyone. It's great to be here. Wagner Denuso. Until recently, I was doing future of work for Prudential, and previous to that, I was the head of leadership development for IBM. So I spent a lot of my time at IBM during this evolution of AI and technology. But now I'm really focused on exploring what can we do to accelerate the digital strategy of HR. So when you talk about AI and the opportunity is to push us into what we always had to do, but didn't do it because other things came along, which is the digital strategy for HR. Every company I talk to, the problem is that data is not accurate, is that the systems don't talk to each other. And the latest now is, please don't bring me another platform. We can afford to implement another system. So HR is already immersed in the conversation. Now we need to be really careful. And I love that we're going to talk about the perils, because cybersecurity, ethics, and equitable access to technology. I'm very concerned about that, because we are creating a divisive view of the world. And I think equity is going to suffer.
I feel like we could do an entire panel just on that alone. That is a fantastic point. That makes me think of some research we did during the pandemic, where we noticed with young people accessing online resources with education, the further out from centers that you went, and also economic issues blocked a lot of people from participating, and it's going to continue. So that's really, really great points there. Fantastic. This is going to be a great discussion. I can already feel it. Jamie, would you like to take over?
Hi, yeah, thanks, Megan. Great to be here. My name is Jamie Conrad. I'm the Vice President of People and HR at Trust Radius. We're a small technology company that's been around for a little while in the startup phase, providing a platform for technology buyers to help make business decisions around which technology is best for their organization at that time, which brings us right in the heart and center of AI conversations on a pretty regular basis. With about 15 years of HR experience, most of it in healthcare before transitioning to tech. Some of the benefits, or one benefit, I guess we'll start with for HR is, we talk about our opportunity to have an influence at the strategic level. And with the digital transformation that AI is going to impact the human experience and the employee experience, our voices are going to be even more necessary and more welcomed in those conversations. And so I think we have an opportunity to have a strategic input on the future of work and how that plays out from a human experience in the workplace. Perils, I'm in direct alignment with Wagner on the cybersecurity and safety side, as well as the ethics and the usage of AI and the impact that has in an organization. And so I'm looking forward to discussing that a little bit further as we go.
Fantastic. Really great points. And your employee experience is going to lead me into my next question. So I'm not going to talk too much about that. And Chara, pardon me, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Of course. So hello, everybody. I'm Chiara Bersano. I have been in the HR technology space for the last, since all my career, in various roles, in various situations, product, but also partner as implementation, but also as a HRIS director, deciding what was happening in my organization. So my interest here, on one side, I've been on the front of on major changes. To be honest, there had been so much disruption in the HR technology space. I've seen it going from a pure HR time and payroll data administrative function to a literally visionary function that looks at AI as a tool that will be used every day. Now, sometimes I smile a bit when I hear this, all the current ongoing discussion on artificial intelligence, because in fact, it's everybody has a different definition. Everybody has a different understanding. We hear a lot of fear mongering around the solution itself. When we talk about HR itself, it's at the same time more delicate because we're talking about people, but also more limited because it naturally depends on the type of data that we feed into the AI we plan to use for HR itself. To me, the crux of the matter is literally for any organization to understand that unless they need the definition of the problem to solve is critical, because you cannot go into any project or in any approach saying, I want to do AI, and that's going to magically solve everything, because it doesn't. And the second part, and that's, I think, the major problem, and I think Wagner already touched on that, is data. Most corporations don't have data, don't have enough data, don't have the data they would like to have, and they cannot define that unless and up to when they know what they want to do with that data. So, and then there is a whole ethic discussion which requires 3 hours of talk, but I'll stop there.
Great points. And we are going to get into all of these. And my first question, because I want to spend most of our time talking about these perils, which are especially like that we brought up, cybersecurity, privacy, and equity. I think those are fantastic points. But I want to touch on some research that came out recently. Came out from LinkedIn that said job descriptions that where organizations had at least mentioned their AI strategy had 17% more growth in applicants over job descriptions that didn't mention at least an AI strategy. We also see other research that is showing people are using AI in their personal lives a lot more than they are using it in business. In this world where people are embracing AI in their day-to-day lives quite a bit, I know I use ChatGPT quite regularly. I know I encourage my friends, and I'm always pleased when they come to me and say, I used it and I used it for this, and it was great. What are the risks of not using AI in HR? So what are the benefits, and what are those positive sides where we are seeing that beneficial impact? We'll just go back in that same order, if that's okay, and then we'll reverse it when we go through the perils. So I'm going to start with you, Tracy.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there are so many benefits. And I think one of the things is to just get started and try, right? Like, I think this technology is going to move so quickly. So we're really wise to enter in, to learn what works, to learn what doesn't, to learn where we need to be careful in terms of cybersecurity and ethics. So I feel like if we don't get started, there may be some really big risks in holding back. I think there are so many benefits in terms of how we can think about it. So like one of the things you hear about all the time is AI that's looking at applicants or looking at resumes. And we have to be we'll talk about perils in a minute. We have to be really careful about a lot of these, but that can be a really, really good way to use it. I think some introductory interviews, some organizations are using AI for some of those early level interviews. Better yet, I think, are some of the things that don't require the human interaction. So can we update policies? Can we update procedures using AI, for example, or ChatGPT to help write some of those things? Can we think about using AI in the organization in order to better track or mine the skills that people have, maybe based on their performance and where they've worked really, really effectively? Not to sort people out, but to sort people in, and to be more inclusive. Interesting to think about like how AI might be able to answer basic employee questions that give us efficiency and are able to easily answer the questions without losing a feeling that it's a human organization and that people can still get access to humans when they need them. Again, all of these have pros and cons, but I think the real benefit is in thinking about the efficiencies and the way that employees can gain smart, accurate, fast responses. And then also HR business partners who get to do more of the work they maybe love to do, like coaching or development or engaging or developing, new areas within the practice of HR broadly. So benefits, I think, both for employees and for HR business partners, as long as we're really careful about pros and cons, both.
Definitely. Great answer. Wagner?
It's interesting. We could be talking about this forever, but I tend to focus on where we can leverage AI quickly. One is the shared services. I keep talking about from shared services to direct access. Don't position something that you can do quickly and fast, quickly and accurately. With a shared service, because if you're so impersonal, when you talk about managers having direct access to data, when you think about employees having direct access, you're talking about transparency in the culture. Things are changing, and the impact is in the culture as well. A culture of transparency, data access to more people, business leaders. HR tend to believe that data about the workforce has to be quiet and has to be secretive. And I think we're mistaken. We have to drastically change our mindsets as HR partners, HR leaders, because actually it should be a fluid process of sharing information, sharing data. The other thing is the composable workforce. I just read the other day that somebody is advocating for strategic workforce planning as an ongoing practice in HR. I think that's exactly right. It's not at the end of the year that I go with my finance leader and do SG&A and headcount planning. That's so antiquated, because AI can really help us understand how a project can be leading to capabilities and actually the composable workforce. How do we compose teams for determined initiatives differently, because not all full-time employees. So AI has an incredible opportunity for us to think differently about all this. But at the end of the day, HR leaders have to learn about this. I don't see HR immersing themselves in the learning about technologies, all the providers. Every day I find new providers of HR with different ideas. We need to be much more attentive to that, because some companies are doing well. Because the last thing I say is the componentization of your digital architecture. You can't rely on just Workday, just SuccessFactors, or just one for everything, because they will not supply you with everything you need. So you do need Vizier here for analytics and insights. You need something else for something else. So I would advocate for HR leaders to be very discerning about vendor selection and open their minds to this incredible marketplace that we have.
I totally agree with you. I see that in the market regularly. And too often selecting a product without realizing how many similar products are out there in the same category and might be doing it better. Just to be aware of the market. That's a really great point. Jamie, your thoughts?
Yeah, definitely agree with that. And that's part of what we do at Trust Radius. It's important to understand the different leaders that are out there advocating for that. Other ways for HR to be strategic, I agree with if you're going to be part of the conversation and strategy, you definitely have to understand, right? You've got to spend some time educating yourself on it, understanding the implications and the opportunities. Have the experience so that you can lead some of those conversations. And there's no secret that more and more we want information at our fingertips. We want to have an easy way to find answers. And so employees are going to want us to embrace those things that make it easier for them to have information available. There's a lot of great AI use cases out there for that already. I also think that there's an opportunity from a strategic HR business partner lens to embrace the idea of AI when it comes to telling a story from people analytics and the use of that, being able to not just analyze the data, but then create the story that can have the most impact from that data and lead conversations around engagement and job satisfaction, as well as the digital transformations and the embrace of technology in the organization. So I think there's an opportunity from some skills gaps analysis. I think we'll see L&D embrace individualized learning tracks with that. I think we're already starting to see some of that. But at the end of the day, if we are not aware of these, if we're not embracing these ideas and being open to them, and then trying them out in our own processes, I think we're going to fall short and not do the organizations that we're serving the service that we're there to help provide. And that is risk mitigation, as well as improving the human experience of what's happening in the workplace. So I think it hits on quite a few different levels there.
Interesting. I keep hearing, and we're going to talk about it after we hear from Chara, about skills and competencies in the skills gap. We're going to need to have a quick discussion about that. And we have a great question about what are some of the tools that we worked with. But let's hear from Chara first.
Well, on one side, we need to be conscious that we have been using different formats of AI for a long time in HR. This is not a new game. We have been using, and I'm not talking the old reporting that has been existing since always, but once we started doing data analysis, that is already a form of. So we more and more I hear everybody's talking about AI as a magic wand, but in fact, it's nothing new. Now, it becomes new when we talk about generative artificial intelligence. But then again, the application of generative, frankly speaking, I just recently created an MBA course on artificial intelligence, and I use ChatGPT to define the start. Why? Because I could have the choice about doing that in half an hour or spending 3 weeks trying to analyze the courses that existed and where I needed to integrate them. So, why not? Now, when we talk about the actual use cases, there are a gazillion use cases already out there, but to me, and from what I see from the technology point of view, they are relatively limited in scope. From the point of view of what is coming out as new things, we have a lot of skills, blah, blah, blah. Fantastic, mostly based on sentiment analysis, email analysis, and so on, with a downplay that in many countries it will be illegal to do. I live half of my time in California and the other half is in Europe. So I'm very conscious that different legal situations and different backgrounds have a strong implication about what you can do. And for a global organization, that is a key part of the game. The other part is also the creation of job description. Well, you know what? You can go on ChatGPT tomorrow and say, create a job description for a person at that level in that kind of organization, doing this kind of things. Please write it for me. And they will write something that is most likely more relevant to your organization than what you already have in your files. What I'm looking for, and I haven't seen it yet, is a use case that will allow me to automatically or to audit my data internally. Wouldn't that be cool? Because data is vastly, I don't want to say incorrect, but either outdated or with flaws. And it's super difficult. If I know all of you have tried to audit your HR data, and that is a huge headache when you audit and then you correct it. An artificial intelligence that will allow a system to go into, or a platform to go into data, crunch it out, see where there are inconsistencies and spit out the inconsistency, and ideally even correct them or propose correction would be fantastic and such a time saver. And I see that as a potential use cases coming up. Another one is organizational intelligence. I never hear it mentioned, and how come? Our organization are described in multiple ways in every system, and that's a major point. They are, again, looking for consistency and for simplification. Another one is, of course, experience. People experience and the way sentiment and email exchanges can be analyzed, leaving things anonymized, but exposing issues, exposing problems that HR can take action. I'm thinking here of compliance, I'm thinking here of diversity, I'm thinking here of all the nice parts. They're not nice to have, but there are something that everybody's looking at and where I see a potential differentiator. Now, I do also see, and while I see the diversity of vendors in the market, I also see that data, the consolidation of data on one platform to be able to analyze it is a big step, and it's a step that becomes very difficult with a variated landscape, because you still need to have oranges and apples that can be compared. So that's a mouthful.
Really interesting. I think, and given the time we're in our panel, this is leading really to that question of, we do see a lot of benefits from AI, but what are the risks? They are real, and I think we heard it at the very beginning. Wagner, I believe you were the one who talked about it, or Tracy, it may have been you. I apologize if I got the wrong person. But there's a lot of products out there. There's a lot. Years ago, I did an analysis of the market in 2018. I found over 700 AI HR products out there. It has only continued to grow since then, and we've lost a lot off the market. In my research, I did find products that claimed all sorts of things, and in the end had no AI. I saw products that claimed very little, that did a lot more than they even said. And I found products that used research that they should not have been using, and analyzing people in ways that they shouldn't. What are some of these risks? And what are some of the things? And I think, so separate your answers. We'll go around once first. One, what are the risks? But the bigger thing is, what can HR professionals do to mitigate those risks as they start to use these technologies? And, some of the big ones, like, don't put your HR data into ChatGPT. It's not private, it's open. So what are these risks? How do we mitigate them? How do we use this technology safely in HR? Just so we don't go completely backwards, we'll start with Jamie, and then we'll go across the bottom and then across the top. Hopefully everybody sees the same panel I do.
Risks from my standpoint, as I indicated, are some of the pitfalls stem in the area of cybersecurity and some of the things that you just touched on, Megan, around what information is okay to put into an LLM, a large language model, and how that is impacting the learning of that technology. What does that doing? What security risks are allowed and not allowed in your organizations? Being part of the conversation when it comes to IT policies and how they're rolling out generative AI frameworks, use cases within the organization. Those are some of the ways that you can try to mitigate some of that. Also around the ethics part, is there a need for us to declare what we're creating using generative AI or not, internally, externally? Those are some hot conversations. Does it matter? Should it matter? And how does that impact your company culture from a philosophy standpoint? I also think it's important from an ethics standpoint, what are we disclosing as part of that to our customers, especially when we have cybersecurity conversations around the contracts with customer agreements? What's the verbiage? What's the language? What's the expectation? Being involved in those conversations is critical as well when it comes to risk mitigation. So leaning back into those first two, I think that's the heart of where we start if we haven't already started. Get to know what's out there, have a good sense for how to use it, and then how do we help to mitigate that risk based off of what we've learned.
Great. And Chara?
I think I totally agree. And I try to structure it in two different sets. On one side is, and I'm sorry, I'm repetitive, data flows. I look at it as AI can allow us to go a lot faster, to bring in much better solutions, to propose new strategies. But if we go much faster in the wrong direction, that doesn't help anybody. And the wrong direction can be what wrong data point us to. So that's the first main point for me. The second one is refers really, well, of course, there is a whole cybersecurity, data privacy, hullabaloo that is a huge piece that I don't even bring in because to some extent it does not pertain to me really to AI in HR. It pertains to AI at the level of the corporation in general. Is not limited to AI to HR. So I'll bypass that part, which is not far from my thought, but anyway, but there is bias. And the introduction, because the fact of using, and here I'm thinking of, for instance, what was that? I think in 2018, Amazon started doing recruitment with AI. Brilliant idea. Everybody thought it was so innovative. It was fantastic things. It was great. And what happened? I think it exemplified perfectly what we should be very afraid of. They fed into AI their own success cases. Of course, we have people in the company, in any company, and we think they're successful, they get promoted, they're great, blah, blah, blah. They get fed into AI because this is the kind of people who want to recruit because they're successful, right? Wrong. Because in fact, what AI was fed was a set of, and I love everybody, but it was a set of white, young males as representative of success, not because they were selected wrongly, but because historically those were the people that were fulfilling the highest level roles and were systematically promoted. And AI started recruiting essentially white young males. Now, we understand why that happened, but that's a wrong solution. How to avoid it? In the end, it means having a lot of human intelligence apply to create the program. And that is where I like to see the human part. This is not displacing human. This is helping human to fulfill our job. And we still need to really think and look at the data we're feeding to artificial intelligence, what we're extracting from artificial intelligence, and what makes sense to us.
That's a really great point. Wagner, your thoughts?
Chiara, that was amazing. That's exactly what we need to be thinking about. But I'm going to elevate a little bit more, because you know what's the problem here is we are at risk of making HR irrelevant. If our leaders continue to believe that the HR dogmas and process, policies, and programs, which, by the way, haven't yielded that much value yet. Look at GA and IMB, look at the programs that we have, early talent, right? I'm not going to go into that. But I think HR, think about human behavior. Our role is to connect the dots. How can we connect all these dots in a way that's less biased, in a way that moves the idea of strategy moving to capabilities moving to organizational design, work design, new ways of bringing skills to the company, new ways of using platforms to build that capability without the hierarchical organizational design charts, without thinking the old ways that we always thought. So that's the risk, is letting old behaviors prevent us from progressing. That's one. The next one is, this reminds me of Agile. Remember Agile? How we are so frightened of Agile. Oh no, we cannot have self-managed teams. The Agile Manifest was 2000, right? I think it's 20 years old or something. We're still struggling with leaders not sharing power. So for distributed teams, we need to have distributed power. For teams to come and go and do agile work, they need to have some power of decision. So what I'm afraid of is that our leaders are going to be the culprits of the risk that we are so afraid of.
That's some really powerful words there. Tracy, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think it's there's so much peril, right? I won't restate what others have said because I agree. Such great points. Two things that I would add. One, I worry about the extent to which people may start to feel like our organizations are less human and less humane. You know, like if everything's more automated, then we may be in a situation where people feel like they're not embraced by their organization, like the organization isn't as people centric. You just think about how frustrated you get when you are calling the call center for any kind of consumer interaction that you have, right? Like you're ready to throw the phone through the through the window or something. We've all been there, right? Or you have a really big problem that's unique and you can't get to a human. I think there's wonderful opportunity for us to automate a lot of HR within our organizations, but then we run the risk that the organization isn't perceived as human anymore. And that will be a fundamental piece, right? Like we know the talent revolution is real. We know the talent shortage will not be going away because every developed and developing country has a decreasing birth rate. So we are going to be in this talent shortage for the foreseeable future. And therefore, our cultures within our organizations, the extent to which organizations engage people, the extent to which organizations create a compelling and fulfilling experience will absolutely make a huge difference. And so we want to make sure that AI and the way that we think about AI within HR is enhancing the culture and the experience rather than detracting from it. So I think that's a risk we just need to be aware of. Another one that I actually think is interesting and something we haven't talked about yet is the extent to which fear drives out the ability to bring our best. Like you think about, when people feel challenged, when they feel rewarded, when they feel appreciated, when they feel respected, it's a lot easier to kind of bring our best. And to the extent that we keep talking about AI and we keep talking about how jobs are changing and we keep talking about how AI could replace humans, I think we potentially create a situation where people are just kind of at this low level of uncertainty and low level of fear. And challenge and stretch are good for us. We don't want just psychological safety. We also want healthy discomfort so we can try new things and roll up our sleeves and stretch. However, if there's always this sort of low level of, oh gosh, what's coming next? Oh gosh, maybe I'm not secure. Oh gosh, I'm, at risk. That may detract from our ability to really challenge ourselves and stretch in the best possible ways and to innovate. So I think that's just another thing that we need to be aware of, is sort of that low level of discontent, that background noise of, wow, I don't know exactly what's happening. Because neurologically, we tend to shy away from ambiguity. We shy away from uncertainty. We like variety that's within our control and within our own choice. And so we just need to be aware of how the narrative shapes up and how that shifts our perceptions and the employee experience.
Some really great points. Just thinking about all of this right now, we've had a lot in this discussion so far. We've talked about some of the great benefits, particularly, let me see if I can even find my notes anymore, about creating efficiencies, improving work, having new ways to work, giving, and I really like the point that we had earlier about thinking about what we are still going to be doing in the future, and that we talk too much about what AI is doing for us rather than what we're able to do around AI. Excuse me. We also had a lot of discussions about the negatives and hearing about the issues with cybersecurity, privacy, equity, some of these issues with working with large language models, and not just that, but I think what Char really brought out was the importance around bias and the introduction of new bias and amplifying bias that already exists in organizations, and particularly when as HR, we're not doing our job. And I think everybody has really highlighted this, the need for education and for HR professionals to be well educated in this space. And I think it was really pointed out, we're not like, I really love this point. AI is not just a magic wand. We're already using it, and I've said this too myself. We're already doing these things at an analytical stage with ourselves. We're only enhancing with using AI models, and it is going to it can go in many different directions, particularly when we're not using explainable AI and making human decisions. It was, if you don't know the gentleman, Salvador Malo works with, I believe Microsoft is in the strategy. And I always loved his point that he made this years ago. And it's, people analytics is unlike other areas of analytics. And when you're working in other areas, a dollar is a dollar is a dollar. You can interchange them. But with people analytics, people aren't interchangeable. And we create a new level of risk and challenge when we use people data. So as we kind of wrap up these final thoughts around this, for HR professionals going forward, first off, what is one thing that they need to know? And like positive or negative, and what is so one thing they need to know, what in that education piece, and what is one thing that they should be thinking about, one of those quotes that really helped you in your thinking, or one of those things. For me, it was Salvador, and understanding a human isn't interchangeable. So what are those two thoughts? What is that one piece of education and that one piece of advice, or that one anecdotal piece of information that can help HR professionals, especially when they're talking to other senior leaders that may not get this? Let's start with Wagner. Just start in the middle here.
Okay. I've been thinking about this, and I would say something unusual, and I don't think it's expected, but HR leaders need to branch out and start learning human behavior. more that we immerse ourselves in understanding dynamics, unconscious behaviors, bias, and the great, incredible relationship dynamics that we can create in the workplace, better, because our role is becoming to create the conditions for people to do their best work, as opposed to forcing people to do what we believe is the right thing to do. So that's that. That's what HR needs to do. But what they need to know is that we don't need to know everything. And actually, that's exactly what AI is teaching us. We don't need to know everything that AI can help us with. So don't try to be an expert in technology, because you're not going to keep up the pace. What you need is be intimately connected to your business, because the business is going to tell you what kinds of skills and capabilities they're looking for. With your knowledge of human behavior, teaming becomes, and that's my quote, teaming is the new unit of value in organizations. It's not the individual anymore. Can't hire so and so because he's going to solve all our problems. That doesn't work anymore. So I leave you with that.
That is a fantastic point. We just need to say this one more time. Teaming is the new unit of value. And it's not no longer about the individual, but about the team. Fantastic point. Tracy, your thoughts?
Yeah, something I think we need to know is I think we want to be really, really intentional about maintaining our skills and building new skills. Like, I think in some cases, AI can replace something that we needed before, right? Like I don't need to remember phone numbers anymore because they're in my phone. So in general, it's pretty safe to let that memory skill go. Or I may have had atrophy in my skills for finding my way around because I use GPS now, right? And maybe that's okay. Like, I still need some skills to find my way around, but in general, right, I can rely on GPS pretty reliably. But I also think we need to be intentional about what skills we maintain. Like, maybe we can use Chat GPT, and so we don't have to do as much writing anymore. But writing is probably going to be one of those skills that's really foundational. And so we don't want to let that go. So I think that the thing to know is how to be intentional about what we maintain and what we offload, and to be careful about that and diligent about that. And then also to be intentional about what we're continuing to build in terms of our skills. I love your point, Wagner, around human skills and understanding human dynamics and how that will absolutely be critical. So that's an example where we can continue to up our game in those areas. So that's kind of the answer to your first question, Megan. But one other thing that I think is really helpful that I really like is that mantra that AI isn't going to replace your job. People using AI are going to replace you. So AI won't necessarily whole scale replace job by job by job, but it will replace those who are really, really using it well. So I think that makes a case for us to think about, how are we using it and what are the ways that we're really getting better at what we do by doing things differently and embracing it differently. So it can help us get started, right? Like, it solves the blank page problem. It can help us get ideas. Maybe we need to, I don't know, plan an employee retirement party, or figure out how to do affinity groups, or figure out how to create a new policy on something. AI can help us get ideas and get started. Chat GPT and AI may be really, really good at helping us do critiques or comparisons. AI may be really good, and Chat GPT may be really good at helping us be creative. I was in a call not too long ago with the head of IT, and he had to get some information across and do a presentation on some stuff that was kind of dry. And he asked GPT to put his content in the voice of Yoda. And it was just like fun and interesting and different. And it was just a way for him to engage people. And it was quick and easy, right? But the thing I like about it is the example of how it can help us be creative in our work. So I think we can stretch and think about how we use it. And the takeaway for me is AI isn't going to replace you. Somebody who's using AI could be the one to replace you. So embrace, be intentional, and be appropriately cautious as well.
I really love that point. And it's not about getting out to know the technology, but how to work with the technology and how to use it in your job. Fantastic points there. Jamie, your thoughts?
Yeah, those are great points. I think something to know is that this is top of mind for people. It's out there, as you indicated, Megan, at the start of this conversation. People are using it in their personal lives, maybe not so much at work, but that's not always going to be the case, right? And so they want to know. People are interested in this. Some are out of fear, some out of curiosity. But there's a nature in here for us to embrace that human aspect of what does this look like? And people want us to have conversations. They want transparency in generative AI, how it's being used, when we're using it, why we're using it, and how can we use it to improve our workforce and improve our work experience. CEOs, C-suites, it's top of mind for them too. When you think about a CEO going, I can improve operational efficiencies by 30%. Wow, that can be huge in an organization, especially if you're trying to go faster than your competitors, right? So those mindsets are already ingrained in our business practices. AI is helping to fuel that. And so we really want to lean into this opportunity to be a part of the solutioning on this. I also think it's important then for the second question, what should you be thinking about is ways to include fun and discover into the discoverability, right? Let's have a good time with this. Let's figure out some contests. Let's figure out some, ways to who can do it differently or craziest, or, how do we build games around this? Gamification is a huge driver and speaks to a lot of people, especially in some of the younger generations. Not going to go down that path with this conversation, but it's true, and there's an embracing of that culture already. So let's lean into it and approach it and where people are already at, to make it less scary, right? And drive away some of that fear and encourage us to just have a good time and see how far we can go within the parameters of security and ethics, of course.
So, with the fact that we have to be completely safe while we do it, let's have fun. But that sounds like swimming in a pool. You have to be safe while you're doing something fun. Sure. And I really like that you've made a really good point. This isn't HR trying to drive an agenda of AI in the workplace. This is already on everybody's minds. People are living in their day-to-day experience, no matter whether they're embracing it or fearful of it. It's in all our faces constantly. Unless you're really living in a bunker, you can't avoid this. That's a really great point. And I love, have fun with it. We rarely hear that. Enjoy the discovery and the things that it can do and what it can bring for us. Fantastic points. And Chera, your final thoughts.
Yep.
Your points.
Well, going back to the fun, I'm not sure about the fun, literally, but something we started doing is starting to use design thinking to identify the hard problem. Because without a problem, there is no AI, because otherwise it's just a fun game that disappears. So design thinking, I started seeing it being used, and that could be a suggestion I have to anybody embarking on that direction, to start by looking for some session of design thinking. That could be the fun that Jamie is looking at. From the point of view of jobs, and I was having so many ideas as you guys were talking, I'm trying to remember them also. From the point of view of jobs, I read somewhere recently, and I was trying to trace it back while we were talking, but I can't find it. A study or a review done of looking at the similarity about the launch of Excel and the launch of AI. When we launched Excel, or when Microsoft launched Excel, there has been a whole discussion about this is going to displace jobs. People will lose jobs because suddenly it was a game changer. You remember doing accounting on the corner of the table when every formula had to be recalculated 200 times. Oh my God, people will lose jobs on that because this is going to get so much faster. Well, in fact, people who could use Excel got jobs. People who could not maybe had to learn it. But at the end of the story, people didn't disappear. Accountants didn't disappear. They just did their jobs faster and hopefully better with less mistakes. So I think there is a very strong similarity there. So I need to find the reference because I found that very, very extremely enlightening. From the point of view of learning, and learning what is there, that has been a crusade of mine for many years, because I believe there is no HR today without HR technology. While it is essential that we keep the human at the center of the discussion, we also need to make sure that our leaders understand that technology is the backbone, not of the enterprise, not of the human in discussion, but the processes are today driven by technology. The data is driven by technology. Artificial intelligence can feed from that. And it is important that our leaders understand that they don't need to be experts of HRIS. Please, they can't be everything to everybody. But they need to have an understanding of what the backbone is to be able to leverage it in the right way and ignore it when it's not relevant. But they need to be absolutely cognizant of that layer there. That's why I started delivering training, delivering instruction, working with universities, because we really need it at that level and we need it globally. So we are all in for that.
Yeah. Any anecdotal point you want to finish with?
I know I had 15 different points, but I didn't even have the time to write them down.
No worries. And I really want to highlight to everybody on this call today, one of the points that you made, which I find too often in business, to think about the problem first that you're solving. I see way too often businesses going to a conference, going to an event, hearing about somebody's great experience with the technology and going back and saying, we have to do this technology. And it's just like, why? It's not right for your business. I think that is the ultimate place to start with this. And I know you said it before, but I think it was great that you said it again. And I want to highlight it again, understanding your business and what your business's problems really are, or not problems, challenges, and what your organization really need is that business acumen is that a number one skill for HR in this space. I've heard it here today, and I say it in my own work. HR doesn't need to be experts in the technology. They need to be aware of it. They need to know what's out there, and they need to know how to be able to research it, but they don't need to be experts in that area. There are other people for that, but they need to be experts in their business and what their challenges are and what they're trying to do. So fantastic point. And I really like your point about jobs not changing, not disappearing. I don't know if anybody remembers, it would have been in about 2003. Osborne and Frey from Cambridge University did a research report, and they put in there that 47% of jobs will be impacted by AI. The media went and ran with it and said that 47% of people were going to be displaced. I heard from Frey talk in conferences and read his book, and he said he despised that because it wasn't what they intended with the research, where a lot of people were fearful that they were going to be just displaced and lose jobs. And what we keep hearing, and we go back to that quote from Tracy, and we know that comes is a popular one right now, AI isn't going to replace you, people using AI. So it's about how do we work with it, have fun working with it, understanding your business's problem when doing it, and understanding that we're not looking at individuals. And Tracy, you mentioned this about not selecting people out of the system, but bringing people in and being inclusive. I saw that in my early work, where we saw a lot of products were trying to surface individuals in some way, people who were leaving, the right person, they're trying to surface things rather than understanding the organization and what we can do to improve the whole. And as Wagner put it, I think this couldn't be any more of a true point in today's business world. Teaming is the new unit of value. It is not about the individual rock stars because they don't exist anymore. They exist within a team environment, and we know that now. We take a high performer out of one organization, put it into a new one. They don't have the same resources and networks. They're no longer that rock star. It is a lot more about how the unit operates together. So I think today we went through a lot of content and a lot of information. Any last points before we get off here, or before I do my final wrap up? I think we've said everything that we can say in this panel without going into too much more. I think the only things that I really want to highlight is around to make sure to be, as you go forward, and to play, have fun, experiment and test, become that great employee or become that great HR professional that works with AI, but do it safely, thinking about your cybersecurity, thinking about data privacy, but also thinking about equity. Is it fair in your organization? How are you using it fairly? And especially about the bias. Are we introducing new bias? Are we amplifying bias? Are we creating new ones that we didn't know we could create? So I think I've been told we have 5 more minutes, but I'm hoping we can kind of wrap it up right now. Our background in MIN. So I don't have any more points to make at this point in time. I think we've literally said it all. Just double check that there isn't any comments from the audience. Thank you for the article, Tracy, that you posted in the chat. And we have a great audience that has joined us from quite literally around the world. We have one last question that I think we can answer in this time. Where do we see the human in AI? Or where do we see AI and human resources? So quick 1-minute answer for each of you. Where do we see AI and human resources in 5 years from now? So we've had 5 years of more development. Where do we see it in 5 more years? Let's go across the top. Tracy, Wagner, Gemma, and Chara. If we just less than 1 minute each.
I think what we're seeing 5 years out is organizations and people who are supported in terms of efficiency and effectiveness, and we can absolutely find ways that people can contribute creativity, connection, and continuity uniquely beyond what tech does for us.
That's a great point.
I think in 5 years, HR becomes an orchestrator of talent and opportunity. And the idea that, and we didn't touch this, but Chiara was talking about the employee experience. You're going to see the employees from the contract employee, we are moving towards, hey, I'm affiliated with you, but you don't own me and I don't belong to you. I think you're going to see the independence of the employee and definition of self-management and owning your career is going to be really real. So I'm looking forward to that.
Very interesting points. I feel like we have a whole new podcast about to come up from these points. Jamie.
Yeah, I think we see in 5 years integration in processes, generative AI being integrated not just in HR, but across the organization to help improve efficiencies for business and workforce as a whole.
So you see more of what we're doing, but being integrated and actually working. So all those wish lists that people have, that systems that don't talk to each other will eventually talk to each other. That would be a great future. And Chiara, hopefully the systems will be finding the problems in data for us. What else will it be doing for us?
I think the connection of the new generation in the workforce and employee experience has the opportunity to really create a new way of working. HR has been forever and is, of course, at the service of the organization, but maybe will become a little bit more at the service of the person as well. And that will be a huge gain for both the organization and the persons and the employees themselves. Because employees are becoming more and more across the world. We're not anymore having employees, we have workers more and more. They are external workers, contractor. We can create a world that is more inclusive, and that's through experience fed by AI, I think. I hope. That's my hope.
That's amazing. So we have people from around the world. I hope everyone has had a chance to learn something today. We've had amazing points. In 5 years from now, I think what I hear across the board is there's just going to be more AI and hopefully better AI and systems that work more seamlessly than we even see today. And as you go out, be curious, have fun, try things out. If you haven't tried ChatGPT to help you, do it, but do so safely. Cybersecurity is real. These large language models are not private. Do not be putting your private data in there or asking it questions that you wouldn't want somebody to know that you're asking it. We have lots of mentions around skills are coming, competencies, and being able to understand the skills gap. And this is not in terms of digital skills, but able to understand our employee skills as they exist. So with all these opportunities and benefits, I hope that we see a bright future ahead of us. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And thank you, everybody, Tracy, Wagner, Jamie, and Chara, for your amazing insights today. A big virtual round of applause from our entire audience. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.